In today's Illustrator Basics video, I'm going to talk to you about a feature called Live Corners. And arguably, this is one of my favorite features. It's a core piece of my workflow and one that I would have a hard time adjusting to life without. Now, that being said, let's take a look at this first document here. The majority of the time that you're going to access the Live Corner widgets will be with the Direct Selection tool. So press A on your keyboard to pull that up. And we can pick up a point in this document that is a corner, and this corner widget should reveal itself to us. Now, if you can't see a corner widget while using the Direct Selection tool, it may be that you have them hidden. So head up to your View menu and make sure that Hide Corner Widget is unchecked. Once that's done and you see a corner widget, you're going to be able to click and drag and create a radius on this corner. And it's a visual, there's a preview that pops up so you can really see what it is that you're creating with this. Now, if you'd like, you can also enter in a numeric value. So we can go 1.5 inches and hit enter, and you'll see that that radius is applied to this corner. This is helpful if you're trying to stay consistent throughout your project. So you're rounding off a number of different corners on a number of different elements, and you want them all to be consistent. This is a lot easier to maintain that consistency than clicking and dragging and kind of eyeballing it and looking for that readout to stop on the same number each time. So the Direct Selection tool, you can pick up multiple points and round them at the same time. You can use the Main Selection tool and then switch to the Direct Selection tool and round off all of the corners, all of the points at the same time. The only issue here is that eventually you will get to an intersection where the corner is going to overlap with itself, and you get that red highlight that happens and it won't let you go any further. These corners are live, so you're able to undo and change these effects to your liking until you go in and make any other modification to one of these corners, whether it's using the pen tool or the Direct Selection tool. So now these corners have been modified. You can't adjust them anymore. Other corners inside of the shape, inside of the path that weren't manipulated will still retain the corner widget. So let's undo that. Now I mentioned that the Direct Selection arrow is how you're going to access these handles like 95% of the time. The only exception to that is with a square or rectangle that was created with the rectangle tool and hadn't been modified. So the original square or rectangle that you drop, if you use the selection tool, will give you access to all of the handles at once. That same thing, that same effect happens with the polygon tool. But this time only one handle will be visible, but it will have the same effect and it will round all of the handles at the same time. You can also switch over to the Direct Selection tool and create an individual radius that's different from the rest. Now, the other troubleshooting thing that I'm going to show you is over here on this path, this plus sign. So you may pick up a path and expect to see rounding handles in all of the corners. But in this case, we're missing two. And these are common issues that will show up with this tool. Visually, this looks like it's a corner point up here. But if you pick it up, you'll see that there's actually a small handle on either side that it extended. So it's not a corner. So if you use the pen tool and convert it back to its original nature with its handles pulled in or retracted, you can now use the corner widget that's going to show up there to round it off. So just double check that. If a corner is not showing up for you, it may already have handles extended, and then a simple conversion like that will give you access to it. The other issue that might pop up from time to time is just based on scale. It looks like we've got one point here in this corner, so it's confusing that it wouldn't have a rounding handle or rounding widget available to us. But if you zoom right in, you'll see that there's actually a second point along this path. So because the scale here isn't large enough, Illustrator is not letting us round this off with a rounding handle or a rounding widget. So if we pull up our pen tool, we could subtract that extra point. And now if we select this corner, we're going to have access to that corner widget that we're looking for. And there we go. Again, super handy to know where all of these issues might pop up. Now this isn't a great example of it, but I'm going to describe it for you. You may get to a situation where there are too many corners and the corresponding widgets are not going to pop up. In this case, there's not too many, and we can round all of these at the same time to create this stamp effect here. But you may find a situation where you have too many corners, and I don't know what that limit is, but then these handles might not be visible. But what you can do if you do get to that situation, and I've had to do this a couple times, is select things piece by piece. So you can use the direct selection tool and round off half of the handles, for instance, that are visible, pick up the rest, and then finish the job there like that. The other great effect or great use of these corner widgets is working with type. So you can have a typeface that you've selected for your project, and you might want to modify that. Now, this type is live type. So if you switch into outline mode with Command Y, you'll see that it's editable. So you can come in here and type something, and it's live, like I said. So to be able to use the live corners, you would need to convert this to outlines. So there's a couple ways to do that. You can select your type and use the key Command Shift O to create outlines, or you could go create outlines. So again, digging through the menus is going to take you longer, but Command Shift O would be the way that I would go. Command Y to switch back over to preview to see our type. Now we can come in here and select points on multiple characters so that they don't have to be on the same path at the same time. And we can round these off like so. So you can give your type a bit more style than what the existing typeface looked like. It's a neat way to add some spice to a project. And the last way that I'll use these live corners is for drawing or illustrating. I'll generally have a reference image, and originally, before this effect was created, I would draw a lot of this just with the pen tool, and I would try to match curves on my own, and I would try to make sure that my handles and everything were all lined up and neat. And at the end, I'd end up with something that was okay, that I was happy with, but I found things to look a little bit too organic. I'm going to switch this over to a stroke quickly. So I use Command Shift X to switch my fill and my stroke. And let's just add in the round cap here on the end of the stroke. So you can see I've created a stroke here that captures the gist of my sketch, but I wanted to have something that was a little bit more geometric, a little bit more structured. And with the pen tool, it can be challenging to create. But what we can do here is use the pen tool in conjunction with live corners. And we could very quickly create a rough outline of a shape like this. And we can add in a corner point there. And now what this is going to allow us to do, if we deselect that with Command Shift A, and then switch back over to the direct selection tool, we can pick up these corner points now and we can round them off, and we get a much more structured, much more geometric effect with these corner handles. So this is how I've created a lot of my logos, icons, and illustrations in the last 10 or so years without needing to spend as much time struggling with the pen tool. Now I can use these corners to create these lines, and I'm always amazed, always thrilled with the result and how quickly I'm able to throw together paths that look much better, in my opinion, than my freehand pen tool work. And there we go. That's it for today. Hope you found this useful. And if you're not already using live corners in your workflow, I hope that this has convinced you that it's a strong feature to use, and hopefully you'll be able to apply it to your work moving forward.